Hello everyone, I am your host, science fiction author Crystal Storm. Tonight, it's going to get a little spooky. Ghosts and other paranormal phenomena are real. But who are they? What are they? My guest, Gary Anderson, is the co-founder of the Western Australian Paranormal Researchers. Their aim is to raise awareness about paranormal phenomenon and encourage more scientific study around the topic. Gary will share his experiences ghost hunting and talk about his group, and those he collaborates with across the globe are working to bring a level of professionalism to a misunderstood field. Come on, let's take a peek inside Crystal's imagination. Welcome everyone to episode 7 of Crystal's Imagination podcast. I am your host, science fiction author Crystal Storm. Tonight, we're going to get a little spooky. I'm excited about it. I'm probably just going to crawl underneath my desk the whole interview while Gary is talking to me about his experiences. Because like I said last week, I can talk about aliens, but I don't do ghosts. I can be abducted, but something in my house starts moving, I gotta go. I gotta get the salt, I gotta get the iron, I gotta get out. Gary Anderson has been a paranormal researcher for, I want to say, decades now, Gary?
Yeah, it's been quite a while, yes.
Yeah. So, Gary, thank you so much for your time. You're on the other side of the world. It is currently 9 a.m. where I am. It's like 10 p.m. where you are.
That it is.
Yeah.
Sunday night here.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being on the show.
That's my pleasure. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So, Gary, let's jump into it. How did you get into ghost hunting and researching the paranormal?
Well, it started, like you said, decades ago. I was about 7 years old, and it started out with that little fella in the background, basically. I had an experience.
Research. Oh.
That's it. Well, no, not research. At that particular age, happy little kid. I didn't know what was what, and I saw something. Couldn't make heads or tails of what it was, so I started reading books, and they were hard to find at the time. And I remember Mum took me over to the local big town, and we had a look through the library, which is weird for a kid that age.
Yeah.
Especially when I went up to the librarian lady and I said, "Oh, do you have anything on flying saucers?" And she was like, "What?" Thought I was crazy, but what the hell, you know? And all I had at that particular stage was a bit of an encyclopedia of the unexplained. So it had a little bit on UFOs, Bigfoot, spontaneous combustion, ghosts, Loch Ness Monster, just about everything you can think of.
Right.
And I was pretty much fascinated in the whole lot right since the get-go with it all. And what I've found over the years is you've got to be in the right place at the right time if you want to go with the UFO stuff.
Okay.
But with the hauntings, there's usually a place where you can go, a reported haunted location, and it's easy to actually kickstart the whole process because you have a place where you can concentrate. So that's where it started.
Oh my goodness. Did you that has to be such a thing for a child to see, like, what is that? And Mom, I saw a flying saucer. Your mom's like, no, you didn't. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much how the conversation went, and I got a little bit of validation when the news came on the next night, and there'd been several reports of UFOs in the area, and all the descriptions matched what I'd seen, and they were sort of like, I don't know if they want to believe it or not, but they just, we'll forget about it, and we'll just let you do what you're going to do because it'll wear off in time,
Right.
Here's me something years later, and nah.
didn't wear off. Not so much. That's all right. So you grew up great, Gary. Don't let them tell you different.
I'm happy with the way I'm turning out.
Yes. Talk a little bit about now. You said that the reason that you first jumped into your research was because of UFOs, and now they're called UAPs. So just very briefly, UAPs have become a little more mainstream now. At least over here in America, I don't know if you've heard there was a whole 60-minute special on it. A lot of people in the UFO community are eagerly awaiting this Pentagon report, which I think are just going to be like, there's stuff in our airspace, we don't know where it is, but
That,
at least people are
this,
talking about it
this week?
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's this week or next week, isn't it? That
Yeah, I think
Pentagon report.
it's coming out. I want to say it's coming out this week. Yeah. So what's kind of your viewpoint as to the current climate surrounding UAPs and what's going on?
Well, probably 10, 12 years ago, I interviewed Stephen Bassett about the whole thing.
He's a good guy.
And I actually asked him the question then, how would it change the world when disclosure happened? And the long and the short of it all was he said some things will change very minimally and other things will change in a massive way. And I asked him how the disclosure event would actually happen, and he couldn't really answer that one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you look at it now, and I'm thinking to myself, is this as close as we're going to get to actual full disclosure? You know what I mean? The CIA, all the different letter alphabet agencies are doing their thing, and they're letting these reports out. So is that as good as we're going to get, or are we going to get the old president on the front lawn saying flying saucers are real?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get that somehow. Not yet, but you never know. I didn't think we'd get this a few years ago.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like this level of disclosure has happened, I feel like, since the phenomenon since we could start tracking the phenomenon in news, right? I mean, I feel like there's always been at some point this big UFO, something happens like in Los Angeles or whatever, where the news is like, and the conversation kind of starts again. Now, I was talking about it with the guest I had on last week. It seems to be really framed, at least over here, as like a national security issue, which is, I get it, it's concerning, but I get it. We would rather it be more of a scientific issue than, because now we got people walk out, I see a UFO, and shoot it with a gun. So, like you said, I don't know, and I don't know if it would make a difference if the president went out onto the front lawn and said, we're not alone in the universe, there are like flying saucers. I honestly, at this point, like, I don't know. I don't know if people would just be like, whatever. Or like, it's really just China. He's blowing smoke up our ass, or something.
Well, you go back 20 years, and it was a very taboo subject. And with all the films, like Independence Day, all those kind of films coming out.
Yeah,
it's just made the whole thing more mainstream, like you said, and people are now starting to open up in this new digital world of the internet and things, which wasn't around when we were kids. Well, when I was a kid, anyway. I don't know.
No, there wasn't. Yeah, no. I watched the internet happen, playing Oregon Trail on that very old Apple computer.
Back then, it was hard to fake something, and in this day and age, it's so easy. I mean, 90% of them are just misidentifications anyway.
Yeah,
and that's even more so now with things like drones and different things like that. So those that like to screw things up for the real researchers have got it easy at the moment. But when you get things like cameras from the nose camera of a bloody fighter, with UFO, the Tic Tac UFO and all those things, that's a little bit harder to discount. And then when the CIA is going to release, the government's going to release all of their documentation, it's not saying that they've got them. I can't see that ever been released about, it's all at Area 51 or wherever. In this day and age, there's reports that they're over here in Australia at the moment.
Oh, wow.
And I just don't think we're going to get that kind of information. We're just going to get a list of all the reports, which will be vast, you know what I mean? Over that many years.
Yeah.
So,
I feel at this point, it is exciting. It is. You know what? If it brings a little bit more seriousness to the topic, and new researchers into the field, I think that's always a good thing. Because we need it. We definitely, like you said, because you're like, it's just so hard to fake things now. So anybody who can come in with their experience and help say, no, that's it's a drone, or this is really something, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I went through this conversation at work the other day with one of the guys. They found out what I do, and stone cold skeptic. Cold thing, scientific base with everything. And I said, well, look, the real ghost hunters, the real paranormal investigators, we're not out there to prove the actual existence. we're out there to find enough evidence to present to the science people to say, look, there's something that needs to be studied,
Mhm.
because at the moment they just poo-poo the whole thing. It's just, freaks over at the side. Forget about them. But
Yeah.
I said to him, you go back 500 years. I said, you were a heretic if you said the world was round, because the world was flat back then.
Mhm.
It took science to prove it.
Right.
And what we need to do is we need to kick them up the bum and get
Mhm.
them to actually start studying this.
Yeah.
And then we might get some answers for it, one way or the other. I mean, I'm not saying they're all ghosts, dead relatives coming back to say hello.
Right.
I've come up with several different possibilities, and they could all exist all at the same time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And getting the actual scientists to get involved, we might actually get some solid answers. But that's the hardest part at the moment. It's actually getting them to sit up and actually take note.
Take note. Right. Right. Let's. I mean, that's a perfect segue into the paranormal. Talk a little about your organization, and then give us, what's your mission statement? What do you guys do?
That's basically what I just said.
Yeah.
I started the West Australian Paranormal Researchers in 2009 with a couple of mates, and
Mhm.
they've since frittered away. And to be honest, I went through a quiet patch for a while there when
Yeah.
life got in the way for a bit. But
That happens.
yeah, it does. A few years ago, it kicked back up again, and it's going from great guns. And what we're about is actually exposing the public that are willing, those that want to come along to the ghost hunts, and basically open people's minds to the fact that there are people out there who are interested in this kind of thing. And they might watch the shows, they might think it's awesome, but I remember the first time I actually went out with a group, it was a nervous phone call to say, can I come out on a ghost hunt? And we just tried to make it easy for people to come out and be open about their experiences. You know what I mean? It's a safe place where you can go, you can study, you can research, you can interact with other people of like mind without being worried about the negative side of life.
Right.
Because
Right.
there's always a few of them around.
Yeah, all the skeptics making fun of you guys. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about now. Um, is there any area of the paranormal that you would say is your speciality, or are you kind of a very wide spectrum researcher?
I'm full spectrum research. I
Okay.
love the whole. Uh, it's hard, We try to. I say myself, I'm what I call a healthy skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I I will explain everything in a way that I possibly can, and
Right.
it doesn't annoy some people when I do that. But I've got to be honest. You don't get credibility by talking shit. Sorry if I'm.
No. You
Uh,
know, speak freely. Go for it.
so yeah, I'll explain anything away, and whatever's left, I'll go from there, and then we'll try and narrow it down. But at that point, we'll bring out all the toys and see what we can get. I mean, I go old school with a lot of stuff. It's dowsing rods. In this day and age, everything's going digital this and digital that. But for many, many, many years before electronic devices and the ghost hunting shows came out, it was old school dowsing rods and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they still have a place today, I believe.
Let's start because I think just for my audience, let's talk a little bit about the tools that you would use during your hunts. Because I know you were talking about. I feel like maybe even with the skeptics nowadays, it might have gotten a little bit more sophisticated. But I mean, sometimes old school is best, and I would agree with you that sometimes I could check something. Maybe there's an app or something on my phone, but a dowsing rod, that's. I mean, it's got to still have a place, like you said. So yeah, what are some of the tools that you guys use now?
We do use a lot of the stuff that you see in the TV shows. I'm
Okay.
skeptical of a lot of it, but
Oh, really?
I am open to the possibility that there could be something to it as well.
Hmm.
We've done, I think you call them spirit boxes, ghost boxes, spinning radios. There's 1,000 different names for them.
Right.
And I think about 90% of the stuff you can explain away, but we have come up with some results that we do have recorded somewhere in the vast vaults of the WAPA files,
Uh-huh.
where we have had actual straight out answers to questions that we've asked. And we'd ask, we're going to move around like this and say stop when you want us to walk in a specific direction. We got a name, and then we'd walk in a direction, and we would find like this is at a cemetery. This one, we actually found their gravesite, and we got all the names of all the kids that are on this gravesite, and that, to me, there's so many points of validation that can't be just simple coincidence through a radio. So you can get some good stuff, but you have to be realistic about the whole thing. And, not everything's a ghost.
I love that you said that too. I love it when people come into these topics with like that healthy dose of discernment yet passion about what they're doing, where they're like, yeah, I mean, yeah, this could be it, but dude, it's not. No, that's not. It's the house is creaky. I don't know what you're going to tell you. So you just recently, you said you had a haunt, not last weekend before. So where do you guys go? Do you guys search out like specific areas that you know from kind of just local lore that they've seen some activity? Do people call you and say, hey, I think there's something in my house? Is it a little bit of all the above?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's hard, especially over here. They're not as open in Australia as they are in the rest of the world in relation to letting people in to do paranormal investigations. They all have these little hoodoos about their place being called haunted and stuff, but there are some places that are open to it. The one you were talking about a couple of weeks ago, we actually went down onto the very bottom tip of Western Australia, which is a place called Albany, and there's an old isolation hospital out there. Back in the days of smallpox, the last big pandemic, if the cruise ships would come in, or the passenger ships back then, and people were sick, they were diverted to the quarantine station.
Okay.
And then from there, anybody that had the symptoms were sent over to the isolation hospital. Those that weren't showing any symptoms went into the quarantine station itself, and they stayed there for about 2 weeks. A lot of people never made it out of there, but some did. And yeah, we actually went down there and we investigated the isolation hospital and the morgue down there. So that was pretty interesting.
Do you guys do this at night?
Oh, we do it day and night.
Do you do it day and night?
Yeah.
You're a brave guy, Gary. You're brave. You're brave guy.
Well, everybody turns. You get these skeptics that turn around and say, "Oh, ghosts aren't there just at night time. You're all idiots walking around in the dark." True, they're there 24/7. But my answer to that is, if you're going out investigating the paranormal, what you want to do is actually heighten your senses. So, you know what it's like. If your primary sense is sight, everything else takes the second place to it. So if you take out sight, then your ears pick up and everything else. So that's why we go lights out. Kind of defeats the purpose, I suppose, when you go night vision. But there's usually one person running a camera, or the rest of the cameras are just static cameras around the place. So that's why we do it at night time, hoping to heighten our own senses to see if we can pick stuff up ourselves. You look at your typical haunt and paranormal activity, and your body will pick it up well before some of the gear will pick it up. But it doesn't make very good TV when you say, "Oh, the hairs on my arm
almost standing up." Right. Are you cold? Like, yeah.
That's as good as what you get with an EMF meter. You can sense when it's sudden to have a cold spot. There's a drop in temperature. Your body picks up that, but the camera doesn't see it, so it doesn't make good TV. So a lot of these instruments that you see in the TV shows are just an electronic way of visualizing what the body picks up. To me, the body is the number one ghost hunting tool. Simple.
I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a smart way to communicate with this particular phenomenon, kind of given what we seem to understand about it, limited knowledge that we have right now. When you go into a haunted place, do you have any kind of specific objective? Like, are you looking to hear something? Is it just to see something? Or is it just kind of, let's just go in and see whatever it is that you are interacting with is willing to kind of give us?
All of the above, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of the guys, I know it sounds a little silly, but a lot of the guys just like to get the crap scared out of them. It's more, more about the atmosphere in the place. We oh God, this would have been about 10 years ago now, maybe. We were invited to investigate this particular location where it was a historic building.
Mm-hmm.
It was a quarter of an entire city block right in the heart of the city. It was 4 floors up and 2 floors down, and lots of stuff had been happening there. And we were invited back on 3 different occasions to do that place. And some of the stuff that we got there was, a lot of you don't get anything. At the end of the night, you just might get a few things that you watch these films and these TV shows where they do EVP sessions and they play it back. We've got an EVP, and you hear this.
Right.
That's a ghost saying, "I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
No. To me, you have to actually hear something that is verbal, not just a click.
Right.
So
Right.
EVPs are a big thing for us. We like to go out getting audio if we can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big thing for everybody is get a ghost on camera. We run infrared. We use full spectrum cameras. We use SLS cameras, just normal, everyday, video cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And we've never actually picked anything up that you could say is a definitive ghost. They're very elusive, but we have picked up doors being slammed almost on demand,
Oof.
and several other things, balls rolling by themselves when they shouldn't be. And this is one of the things where I like to say old school is a lot better than this high-tech stuff that you see. Say, for instance, you look at Waverly Hills. I think just about everybody in the ghost hunting genre knows about Waverly Hills. They've got that creeper, I think, up on the 3rd, 4th floor, something like that. And there's this one room where, I think it was one of the TV shows, they put this ball in the middle of the room and the ball kept rolling off by itself. And for me, it could be wind. There could be 1,000 different reasons why that happens.
Right.
But rather than get too super technical about it, for me, just put a bit of blue tack down, stick a pencil in it with a little feather
See what
next
happens.
to it. Because if the feather blows and then the ball goes off, well, you know what it is. And this is what I'm saying. Quite often, it's the simple side of things that are the hardest to fake. They're the most, like I said, you look at your standard sort of K2 meter, which is an EMF meter, which all the TV, well, a lot of the older TV shows used to use, lights up when there's a electromagnetic fluctuation. Phones can set them off. There's 1,000 different things that can set those off. So you have to do a lot of baseline readings. And like I said, if you've got that set up in front of a camera and somebody's there playing with an EMF pump or something like that, they're going to make this thing light up on demand. And that makes wicked TV because it's happening, but it's not necessarily real. Right. That being said, sometimes we'll get very real things, but they're hard to substantiate unless you can prove that there's not somebody in the background causing it to happen.
Right.
So it is a tricky field, but we're out there trying to find that elusive bit of footage that can't be debunked.
You're brave. You're brave because I mean, you said you've heard doors slam and ball, and I'm just like, nope, that's it. So something that's always fascinated me about the paranormal is get your take on it, Gary. When a ghost, when a spirit, however we want to, I mean, I don't think we know what it is, can actually interact with something that is kind of physical, that is material. It's interesting that we still don't have the kind of equipment to measure that. So I would ask you, like, when that kind of stuff happens, when a ball rolls or when a door slams shut or, any other kind of poltergeist stuff happens, is there anything on your instruments that spikes, that moves, even like you said, physically? Do you feel different? Does the air you get some bad vibe, good vibe? Does anything like that kind of coincide with that?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I've actually got a bit of footage from maybe 8-9 years ago when we were down in Albany again, actually the same location, but this time we did a board session. Funny enough, I know they're a bit taboo in this day and age, but when you've got somebody that can govern a board properly and do it the right way, it can actually be a good tool to actually get some activity going. And we had tri-field meters on the board, we had K2 meters on the board, and literally basically I had the camera facing on the table. Behind me were these double doors. You go out the double doors across the car park into the old cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually invited the spirits to come forward. And at that point, the board, the planchette started moving on the board, which I'm still a bit funny on that, but I have experienced it, and it's a very weird sensation when it actually does go. That went, but at the same time as that happened, the K2 meter went off, so that was picking up EM fluctuations. The tri-field meter went off as well. That's a completely different instrument. And right at that same time, both the doors behind me burst open. So we've got circumstantial evidence of the board moving, two separate accounts of different meters going off at the same time, as well as physical activity, the doors bursting open behind us. So the golden rule is you want 3 points of validation. I'm pretty sure we got pretty close to that with that particular case.
Brave. High levels of bravery.
Well, funny enough, we did have the same thing happen when we were down there last time, but a couple of weeks ago. But we weren't running a board session at this time.
It just happened. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Just like nope. That'd have been it for me. No, thank you. You know what?
It's the exciting stuff.
That's the. You know what? I'm like got a whole different, interest. I'll read all the reports that come out. I'll watch the TV shows, but I don't think you'd ever actually get me there.
The big thing about it as well, like you don't see when you watch the TV shows, is the actual atmosphere around. You can actually feel it in the air. And rather than just watching it on the TV and go, ooh, what's going to happen next? You're actually living it. And when you watch, I'm not going to get into naming shows and stuff like that, but when you see them go under night vision and things like that, everything's got that little green glow, and you see them walking around, and when you see the camera go out and you see this bright light coming, you actually think that, okay, they've got torches going. It's not as dark as what it is. But that's not actually the case. If you look at a infrared light through an infrared camera, it lights up like a torch. But we actually will turn the night vision off to show you how dark it actually is. And, you can put your hand in front of your face and you won't see it. That's how dark it is. So it's not as cool. It's not as cool when we do it as when you see it on the TV shows, because I've got my feet floating out. Yeah. Make sure I don't fall off a step or something,
Yeah, definitely.
That's why you do the daytime walk around.
Right, so you're familiar with the place at least before you go in there to the pitch black. Yeah, that's smart. That's smart.
Floorboards missing and something like that, and you're gonna fall. So you don't want that happening. You have to keep safety number one.
Oh my goodness. All right, we're going to take a super quick break. When we come back, I am going to get into Gary what he thinks these are some of his more scary experiences. And if you can live in Western Australia, if you can call him to cleanse your house, how all that works. So don't go anywhere. It is Crystal's Imagine Podcast, episode 6. We are here with Gary to talk about the paranormal. We will be right back.
Thank you for listening to Crystal's Imagination Podcast. If you want to listen to a podcast similar, let me recommend the Delvin Cox Experience, a podcast in which each week I'm on a one-man mission to unite our culture through diversity. Each episode, I interview a different guest, trying to find out what makes them tick. I've had guests on such as James Gabsey, Crystal Storm, and many others. So after you get through listening to all the Crystals podcasts, check out the Delvin Cox Experience anywhere you get podcasts. Peace.
Hey guys, this is Mikey Flash from Speed Force Music. Do you need custom music for your podcast, YouTube show, or any other project? Then look no further than Speed Force Music. We have a library of royalty-free music ready to go in your show right now. Or if you'd prefer, we can also custom craft music directly to your specifications. So for your next project, look no further than Speed Force Music. We are on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/speedforce-music, or you can find us on YouTube under Speed Force Music. Let us custom craft a song directly for you.
The moment he appeared in the chamber, a sense of unease crawled over him, stronger than the chill in the room. His clothes provided no protection against either, seeping into his bones and filling his gut with an emotion he had not felt since he was a child. Fear. His resolve steeled, he looked around the chamber, if one could call it that. He could see nothing. Even his Daquan eyesight couldn't pierce the darkness. In the end, he didn't have to. One couldn't see the demiurge in the light. There was no way to describe them. He knew no words to fill his mind to translate the beings that slithered around him in the darkness, closing in on his space like vipers, ready to crush and devour him. He could feel their hunger. It was so much greater than his anger. It was overwhelming in force, and he immediately became nauseous, a cold sweat latching onto his skin. His heart pounded so loud he could hear it, and everything inside of him wanted to run. Fast. To remake the door he'd punch through this dimension and leave it. Seville's hands balled into fists. He did not fight his fear. He latched on to his anger. Still, he had to swallow once, twice, before he found his voice, and even then it shook. I can free you. The slithering stopped. He could feel them hovering, looking into him, through him in ways that felt like a violation and invasive, and increased his nauseousness so much he feared he would vomit. He did not dare break the silence with more words, digging his fingernails so hard into his palms his knuckles ached, bile lodged in the back of his throat. Even the sound of their voices was an invasion, slamming into his skull so loudly he grimaced, reaching up to grab his head, his ears ringing after that one simple word, a migraine pounding into his temple. This was not a place for beings in a body.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We're gonna get spookier here with Gary. So Gary, let's start with what do you kind of believe that you are kind of interacting with when these things happen? Do you think it's a spirit, it's an entity? Could it maybe have some connection to the UAP phenomenon? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you have to take every case as it comes. There's, like I said earlier, there can be 100 different explanations for paranormal activity. I guess you know the basics about your residual hauntings and your active hauntings and your poltergeist. There's 1,000 different things it can be. But what we've found is, how do I put this the easy way?
Put it the complicated way. Let's dive into it. Yeah.
Again, we got into contact with this one particular spirit, which they were looking at us as if we were the ghosts, and we got a date for them of 1918, I believe it was, where they were living. So,
oh my God,
I don't know. That's sort of bordering on this multiverse theory kind of stuff, which is a little bit crazy and out there, but
right,
that's the world that we live in. We live in the crazy and out there kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it's, I've looked into that, and you go into the Big Bang Theory and all that sort of thing. And what they say is everything goes out, everything contracts, everything goes. It's like this continual in-out thing.
Right.
Now, if you go into multiverse theory, there are multiple bubbles going in and out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be times when some of those are going to push against each other, and that could be where the term thinning the veil comes from, And we could have actually been in the right place at the right time where it was like that, and they were picking us up as if we were ghosts. We were picking them up as if they were ghosts. They reckon they were alive in 1918. I can't prove that one way or another, but we got the answers that we got. And it's something I'd never even conceived of before. So that's one thing.
That brings a whole new, I feel like that brings just a whole new type of, I don't even know what the right word is. I mean, to the phenomenon, because people, always think that, when something's moving in your house, or you're doing an EVP or whatever the case may be, you're talking to someone who has been deceased. Where you had the experience where you were potentially maybe talking to just someone in the past. So that's,
exactly.
Yeah, that just brings a whole new level of what are we dealing with here?
Well, this is exactly what I was saying before. Not everything that is deemed as being a ghost is actually somebody who's passed over and they've come back to say hello. There could be 1,000 different experiences or, reasons for it. Now, that's one. As you said earlier, we do residential cases when we get called in to help.
Mm-hmm.
We used to deal with Father Barry May, who was he's the ex-West Australian police chaplain, and he was an ordained exorcist. And we dealt with him on 2 or 3 cases. And on one of them, we actually witnessed a glass slide off, well, not just slide, but slide across a counter, but then fly off the counter. Now, I know there's 1,000 ways you can trick it and have it sliding across, but then it could fall off the end of the counter, and that you can explain away. But for it actually to get a little bit of altitude, it lifted up and off, but there was nothing there. That is something I can't explain. It's not like there was a little magnet in there and then some high-powered magnet to sort of flick it off or anything, because we do look at all these different things, and that is something that we couldn't explain. So I've been actually attacked on one occasion where I got up and something happened. Something actually grabbed this and pulled it backwards, and I'm a big lad, and it pulled me down, and then I got up, pulled the door open, and a broom and a glass flew at me. Again, I've got no explanation for that. And
did you feel anything when that happened, Gary? Did your body give you any kind of warning before? Maybe like you're just getting up and it's like, oh, bad vibe, and then it kind of happens?
Yes, exactly. I was in this room in the pitch black, and the only way I can describe it is, how your eyes adjust when you've been in a dark room for a long time?
Yes.
Well, that darkness went blacker than black, and I knew that was something that wasn't right. It went. I got the cold chills at that point, and that's what actually got me up to my feet. And then whatever it was actually grabbed. It wasn't this chain; it was a different one, but it actually grabbed and pulled me back.
Oh my God!
And I was the only one in the room, so I know that wasn't. The guys actually said, "Did you get it on film? Did you get it on film?" I said, "No, because I was going to have a sleep, and I snore like a freight train. I wasn't putting that on film for everybody to see and witness."
Right.
So
right.
Next time I went in there, I did, and I discovered how loud I actually do snore. But that was it. I didn't get any paranormal activity that night.
Oh, jeez. Please explain to me, Gary, how a spirit grabs you and throws things at you, and you're just like, hang on, I'm gonna go back in there and take a nap. That's, sir.
This was in the isolation hospital, and you got the main section over here, and there was these 2 rooms, which apparently used to be doctors' rooms.
Right.
Right out the window was the morgue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been lots happening around there. So there was me supposed to be staying in one room, and one of the other guys was supposed to be puckered up in the other room, ready to go as well. I went running around there to him to find out that he'd actually chickened out in the middle of the night, and he went over to the nurses' quarters, which is probably 100, 150 meters, 150 yards, however you say it, over the other side there. So I was actually in the isolation hospital all by myself, which probably made me a good target for these things to have a crack at. And I ran across, and not for any other reason than it was unexpected. It was exciting. It got the adrenaline pumping that much. So I had to calm myself down for a bit. And then I went back and spent the rest of the night in there.
There was no kind of fear that because I think that's the thing that always got me about the paranormal, that I cannot see or interact with this thing, but it can throw things at me. Like you said, it could grab your chain, push you, is there any type of defense that you guys would recommend? Is there anything that you can do when that sort of thing happens?
No, not really.
Thought you beat.
It's not like you can turn around, grab them by the scruff of the neck and smack them one. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And you've got no actual defense other than your own spiritual confidence, I guess, which is, one of the big things that we hear when we do we'll do a public hunt every now and then, and we'll invite the public out, mm-hmm. and we'll let them have a go with the toys and things like that they've seen in all the TV shows. It introduces them into the world of paranormal investigation the right way, the safe way, in a group, right, and things like that. And what do I say to that?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that now, but yeah, you have to do it the right way. And I completely forgot where I was going with that one. I got
Yeah,
so far into.
you were talking about just having a spiritual confidence when you go into these things.
Yes, well, one of the things I do say to everybody is you got to keep your vibes up. You got to be happy and enjoy the whole thing, because one of the big things that people are worried about are attachments, taking something home with them afterwards,
Right.
and things like that. And I've always been of this opinion that it's usually people that are down on their luck, things aren't going their way, they're miserable. They're the ones that are easiest for spirits to attach themselves to because it's an easy target. So I always say to everybody, get your spirits up, things like that before you come out on one of these things. And I say, I'm not going to tempt fate, but I say I'm a bit like Teflon. Everything just bounces off me, I can go into it. I mean, you go into these things like what you were saying, how could you do that and go back? Well, that's what we're actually going out to try and find. What's the point of going into a haunted location and have something happen and then run for the hills? Because that's what you were going there for. Yes, right. I can understand being startled and things like that. You go out, regroup, go back, which is what I did. But if you just pack up and bugger off, well, you might as well not go out there because every time you actually experience what you're going out there for, you run for it. It's not what we're all about. So well, not the real thing, anyway.
Not the real ones. Okay, so then you and your team had never had an experience where you were just like, you know what, this is a little bit too much for us to handle. Maybe we should bugger off.
We had something happen when we were down there the other week, and we were in the morgue. Each of the girls,
of course, you were in the morgue. Damn, it's always the damn morgue.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? But we were all around the slab.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like a bloody bad
yeah.
song, doesn't it? And what had happened was, because there was a group of about maybe 15 of us, I broke us all off into smaller groups, and then I'd send them all, because this whole place, put it into miles, it's probably a couple of miles across and a couple of miles around, the whole complex.
Big,
so I'd send them all off into different areas so that they were in small groups and they weren't going to interfere with each other's investigation. And every time one of these groups went into the morgue, something happened to them. And ultimately, we were trying to actually record a podcast, me and my co-host. So we were in the main area. We were all set up and started to record 3 different times.
Of course.
Each time. So we will eventually put what we got together and put it up, but we haven't finished recording the rest of it yet because of all the interruptions.
Oh my goodness, can't wait.
We said we'll send the guys in. So we went in, and so there was something that wasn't happy, and ultimately it did actually attack one of the guys there. And if you actually go to the WA Paranormal page, West Australian Paranormal Researchers on Facebook, you scroll down and there is a little bit of a teaser to the video that we will be putting out with a few of the things that happened down there. So it was a very messed up weekend right from the start.
Yeah. So
that being said, I all want to go back.
Of course you do. This does not surprise me at all. Gary, it was nice knowing you. Good luck, man. So, when something like that happens, like you said, someone on your team, gets hurt or gets attacked by, an entity, whatever it is there any, I know you guys are definitely going back because, like what you said, that's your whole deal. Do you take a break? Do you maybe think okay, maybe the spirits had enough, we should just, come back another time? Do you do any type of cleansing? I mean, do you bring in a priest from, I don't even know what religion you would pick at this point because, how would you know? Yeah.
No, you can't. One of the big things I've said about any kind of cleansing or exorcism, whatever you want to say, my take on the whole thing is the words of exorcism, you watch all the films, all the Latin and stuff like that, are pretty much pointless. It's not the words that have the power, it's what they instill in the person that's possessed. That's the power.
Okay.
Take, for instance, if you are a Muslim and you're infested by the jinn or whatever, getting somebody to do a Catholic exorcism is not going to work on them. They'd have passages from the Quran or whatever, which for the person who's religious, who's been infested by the spirits or whatever, they'd hear these words and it would build their vibe up to a point where they say, yeah, they can do this. They can fight this thing off. As that vibe lifts in the person, it's harder for the spirit to hang on, which I was getting into the vibes earlier.
Right.
So it's not the words themselves, it's the confidence in the person that builds up, and that's what does it. It's the same with, like the Catholics. They hear those Latin words. It's not the words that have the power.
Right.
It's what
It's
those words
knowing mean to
instill
them.
in the person that
Right.
has the power from within. They don't expel the spirit. They just build the vibes up, vibrations, whatever term you want to use, in the person to a level where it's hard for the spirit to hang on. So
That wouldn't.
we
Excuse me. That makes a lot of sense. That makes sense. That would be the case.
it's. I'm sorry. There's no magic word. You
Yeah.
abracadabra, be gone, spirit be
Right.
gone.
You wish. Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So we would use sage, sage sprays, different things, which the guys feel increases their vibration.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
take a break, get them away from the active area for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they wanted to go back, we could look at it. If not, we wouldn't. It would depend also on the severity of what was going on.
Okay.
There were a couple of people that it hit pretty hard, so we sort of said, "Yeah, you're not going back in there now." And guys will be guys, and they're all bravado. We're going to go back in, And
Yeah.
yeah, it goes, well, you're going to get what you wanted.
Yeah.
And then it was very interesting and very eye-opening.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So what has been your most interesting case that you can kind of, I mean, I feel like because you've had just so many amazing experiences during your career and still ongoing. So, what has kind of been one of the cases for you that even if you didn't need a whole lot of evidence, you were just like, what the fuck?
I could, so many. There's so many historic places that I'm not even allowed. We have to sign NDAs to even get into some of these places because they're still open for business now, and they are very historical, local area. All right, I'll say one of them, but I'm not going to tell you what happened there.
Oh.
The Supreme Court of Western Australia. It's open every day during the week. Murderers are tried there. Some of the biggest cases are being tried there. We were invited in there.
Hope I never have to go there.
Because of something that happened to a team of workmen down in the catacombs underneath.
Ooh.
And we went into courtroom 2, which is where all the big trials happen, and we got to walk down the tunnel that comes up into the dock. When the defendant comes up,
right?
They don't walk through the crowd. There's that little tunnel that goes down to the cells at the back. We went down into there. Then we went down further into the catacombs, and some of the stuff that happened down there was very eye-opening. It was,
yeah.
But it was another historic location. Again, I actually can't name this one. Let's just say it's a theatre that's open for business, and there are lots of top shelf acts that go there.
Okay.
And we went in there after this particular show because they said the activity in there is always heightened after a show and all the people have been in.
Mm-hmm.
So we went in there, and there are, back in the 40s and stuff, there were a lot of like basement nightclubs and things like that, the old cigar joints and that kind of thing. So we had stuff set up in some of them. And then there were 3 of us, me and 2 of the girls, actually on the stage in the main auditorium area where all the acts go and stuff. And we had a spirit box going. And I think one of the biggest things, and I do have the EVP somewhere that we got, we were talking, and the psychic girl that was there, she actually picked up that there was somebody hanging around. And we said, "Where are you?" Didn't hear anything there on the night, but playing it back, you get a male's voice going, "Behind you."
Oh God! No, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
No, thank you.
That is probably one of the best that we ever did. There's a place called the Fremantle Art Center, which if you ever Google the Fremantle Art Center, you just know by looking at it that it's creepy.
Mhm.
But going back through its history, it's been a lunatic asylum, and it's
Ooh.
been this, it's been that, several things. It wasn't too long ago that they found some hidden rooms up in the attic, and there was stuff that was found in there, which I won't go into, but it's what you would expect from one of these mad
Yeah.
science layers and things.
Oh my God.
Well, there's a section down on the opposite side to where this room was, where there was some cells, and it's reported that there was one particular cell that was haunted, and we weren't allowed to actually investigate. We were allowed to set up our gear because it's open for business.
Mhm.
We went in after hours, set all the gear up, left it running overnight, and we had to be back like 6 o'clock the next morning to pack it all up and then just review evidence.
Right.
And we've got this EVP from this cell, which also has an EMF spike at the same time, caught on camera. So it was caught on a voice recorder, and it was caught on the audio from the camera itself, a woman's voice saying, "Get out." Now, I'm not saying it was hard to understand. It was as clear as you or I saying, "Get out," and it was definitely a woman's voice. So
Wow.
it's very almost, you would almost consider it a actual disembodied voice rather than an EVP. It was that clear.
That's
So
wow.
it
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
all
Okay.
over the place.
Whoa. Okay. Have you found that locations that are particularly haunted? Is there kind of any commonality among the history? Like, is it normally a place where bad things have happened, or maybe is it just a place that's just been around a long time that's seen like all kinds of things?
No, sometimes there are very new buildings, which then goes to the. It makes you consider: is it an object? Is it land based? Is it something
Right.
that's happened inside a building itself? And this is what there's 100 different things. There's a place called Panjara, which is out probably an hour east of where I am,
Hmm.
and back in the 1800s, there was what they call the Massacre of Panjara, where a whole load of the Aboriginal people were slaughtered when the white guys came, and it's very nasty there. But they were just left wherever they dropped in the fields, and out there they actually ended up, I think it was 1912, 1918, somewhere around there, before 1920. They built some of these old houses, and that ended up becoming a place where, by this guy called Fairbridge, where they used for orphans and things like that. When the Second World War happened, a lot of when England was getting bombed by the Germans, they were doing the nightly raids.
Yeah.
They got a lot of kids and they shipped them down to Australia to keep them safe. A lot of those kids never ever found their families ever again.
Oh, geez.
And we were actually down there. I think February we were actually in there, and we were there actually last year. And that, you've got a mixture of a few different things going on there. You've got obviously land-based spirits, which are, it's just anywhere in the area you can pick stuff up.
Right.
And then you have specific things happening in each of the buildings, the dorms, cabins, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
It can be a number of different things. And again, not all of them are just dead people. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
You've got to try and identify what you're dealing with, and that's half the fun.
Woo. And the difficulty, I would assume, that cares. Like that's the fun part. Now, do you collaborate with other groups?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Share information and all that kind of stuff. And can other groups reach out to you? Let's pip out your Facebook page, and I don't know if you guys has a website, but how people can reach out to you and share like information and research.
Yeah, if you look up on Facebook the West Australian Paranormal Researchers, you'll find us. Or if you look up the Paranormal Bikers, it's a Facebook page. It's all linked together. That's our podcast page, and that'll get you through, and you'll get to see some of the stuff that happens. We deal with some of the groups over here, although not every group here believes in the para-unity thing, where everybody's out for the same reasons. We're all trying to do the same research. And as far as I'm concerned, if everybody collaborates, it does help us come together and get better info. There's a couple of groups that are out there doing their things, and they share their little videos and stuff on our page as well. But where we deal with groups over east, for instance, they'll have somebody report that they've got friends over in WA that have something going on, and they'll reach out to us. We'll do the investigations for them, and then we feed all of our findings back to them, and vice versa. We have these agreements with different groups around Australia and a couple internationally as well.
Oh, nice.
Where we share the information, and we just call ourselves sister groups because we're all out for the same reasons, to help people and obviously increase exposure of the whole field to the general public.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it does work well that way.
I love it. Gary, you have been a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences and your stories. And I hope that that you actually do get the definitive proof, because I think it needs to come from someone like you, who is taking this seriously and kind of just wants. I would love for you guys to have a Netflix show, even if it's just you running into walls in the dark. I think that would just be great, because you've got a great personality. But I hope that you guys get something to give to some scientific group to say, here, go do your theories. Let's figure out what this is.
Now, if we can get one scientist to get out there and start doing the research, we've done our job.
Yeah.
Then it's up to them to try to convince the rest of their peers that it's something worthwhile studying.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Everyone, please make sure that you go and check out Gary's Facebook page. Be on the lookout for the Paranormal Bikers podcast. Do you guys have a schedule yet of when you're going to be on, or are you kind of just slowly gearing up?
We're still setting. Oh God, if I could tell you about the first time we did a thing, we had one little microphone, and to get that good
That's
radio voice, you got to get up close. There's two of us like this.
That's how you got to get it started. Yeah.
We had an hour show that we recorded, and by the time you took all the swearing and laughing out, we were down to 29 minutes. But we've done a couple of interviews now with different people, but we're trying to pre-record, get a few, and then we'll start a schedule at that point. So there's a couple out there, a couple of interviews out there, and we've got a couple more to do. But as you can see, we're starting to get the microphones. I've got a microphone there. I've got another one over here. So we're getting ourselves set up for it.
Oh, that's going to be great. And are you guys going to start doing any live shows? I know you tried before one of your live shows at are you going to try to do that during more haunts as well?
Yes. Yeah. The problem we've got at the moment is places like Albany, where I was just talking about, you go down there and there's not a lot of reception to get an actual live feed going.
Right.
So we're looking for some more places that have accessibility to the internet, because the setup that we've got with the DVR cameras and everything, it is internet ready, so we can upload directly. And in relation to the podcast, yes, ultimately we are going to go from a pre-recorded format to a live format. It'll probably be audio to start off with, and then once we've got the studio set up, we will then step it up to video, and we might even have you on.
Love it. Love to. I
don't know. UFO?
Yeah, we can definitely talk UFOs, and I can't wait for your podcast, especially the live one, because I'll come hang out and from the safety of my home, where I have all my sage and crystals in my little safe space.
I think your vibe's high enough. You've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Man, I would hope so. I don't know. If something grabs me, Gary, I'm out, and I'm not coming back. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Live life, enjoy it.
Yes, that's exactly why. If something grabs me, I'm going to take that as you don't want me here, so I'm just going to go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us during this episode of Crystal's Imagination Podcast. I am your host, Crystal Storm, a science fiction author. Do go and check out my website, crystalsimagination.com. Make sure that you check out Gary's Facebook page. Go there, hang out, research. If you're another group, you're listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, and you're interested in sharing information with Gary, absolutely please do. I feel like the more that you guys collaborate on this, the better it's going to be for the whole field and for us to get some answers. Like Gary said, maybe it's an entity, maybe it's a ghost, maybe it's weird theories of quantum entanglement. We don't know, so we've got to kind of collaborate and figure that out. Join us next week. I will have on a gentleman who's going to teach us all about the craft. So that is next Tuesday. And then we've got a great lineup coming as well for July. So stick around. If you are watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. If you are listening to this on your podcast network of choice, do all the things. Subscribe, review, comment, blah, 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 blah. And I will see you guys next week. Well, hey, Crystal here. I wanted to thank you personally for joining us for this episode of Crystal's Imagination of the Talk Show. I hope you'll take a quick second to drop us a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and or a review. I would love to hear your feedback. If you have a guest suggestion, drop me a line at talkshow@crystalsimagination.com, or you can just send me a note and we can be email buddies. Want more podcasts? You can also check out the serialized fiction podcast of the same name, Crystal's Imagination. You'll find it on my YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out all the information down in the description. Till next time.